All right, Gaither, are you hearing us? What can we do for you?
Hi, who am I speaking with? I didn't watch. I just called straight in.
Sure. Well, this is Christy Powell from Secular Sexuality, Thursday nights at 7. And you're on with JMike.
Oh. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now, you'll have to corral me sometimes. I know I'm verbose because I have this bad habit of thinking, and I try to curtail it in every walk of life. So I'm going to try to do this in bullet points. Interrupt me whenever you need to.
Sure. Yeah, I can appreciate being a little nervous. What's the bottom line that you're trying to get to, and then you can kind of walk us through it.
Okay. I would like to say something that may help people like me to go, yeah, that's me. I need to go there. I need to question this. I need to question what has not been proven. So that's my thing. I just want to say something that might help people. And it's frustrating because I'm in severe poverty. All my life lived in poverty. I have really no outlets. And I've tried to get involved with activist groups, and I think the pattern is, well, he's poor. He can't do anything. It's not like he's going to be able to show up in Raleigh for the thing. Somebody will have to pick him up and take him. There's no value because there's no money to be free to go around. So that's kind of my frustration. But what happened to me, again, bullet points. I'm 53. I was in a Christian school for 1 year. I was saved / horrified at the age of 7. I didn't receive faith. I received fear of hell. It was the most traumatic experience I had to that time. I mean, it was terrifying. I experienced an elation, a fearful elation, just panic. And I thought, well, that's the Holy Spirit. And if that's the Holy Spirit, and I'm in trouble because I don't think I can accept this. And so I lived, okay, bullet points. I go to 7 years old, 7 or 8. I have this vision. One night I wake up and I look at the I stuttered sometimes. I had a stroke.
No worries.
Air conditioner. I was looking. For some reason, I woke up, rubbed my eyes, looked at the air conditioner. Some brown smoke is pouring from it. I thought, what's wrong? It takes the form of what we think looks like Jesus in a darkened room with a cover on his head. You can't see his face. He holds his hands out. I think, I don't know how I got this, but he reads minds. I believe that. And I'm praying to him telepathically. If that's you, tell me it's you. I'll come to you. Mom and Dad will get over my death. I'm ready to go. Life was that bad at 7.
Sure.
And when I said that telepathically, immediately after I said it, his arms withdrew, turned into smoke, went back into the air conditioner. And from then on in my life, I believed that Satan had appeared in my room to try to get me. And that's horrifying.
That's a tough thing to carry.
The Christian.
What was the thing that helped pull you out of that you were hoping to maybe share with our audience today? What was the final straw or the magic key that helped turn that lock for you?
Yes. What I believed and why. I believed there was a God. I suspected that it was the only God I was subjected to, the God of Israel. So I knew. I mean, I was just totally convinced there is a God, and I suspected it was you. And now I'm repeating myself. I'm wasting time. I dropped.
No, you're good. So,
sorry.
So you had. So I guess I want to back up a little bit and ask you, when you had the experience, you thought it was Jesus, and then you were convinced it was Satan. You clearly deciphered between two things, and then you later on decided that wasn't the case. So what was like the process at which you kind of went through that? Like how did you, like Christy said, how did you progress out of that state?
All right. Well, my belief went from mom and dad, but other people in the family said Jesus is real and the Bible's real and Israel's over there and this is history and all this happened. I went from that to looking into it to verify it for myself without any help, because my family, I hate to say it, but they criticized me for asking questions throughout my entire life. And so I'm all by myself. I'm trying with dyslexia and other learning disabilities and possibly a cognitive disorder on that. I'm trying to find out the truth. And this goes from 7 years old to the time I'm 47. I'm listening, and by then I'm believing because I'm convinced there's a God by itself all along, and I'm starting to doubt that it's the God of Israel. And then one night, it's just like, to me, it's real magic. It's, so to speak. I'm listening to the Epic of Gilgamesh, and I'm hearing this familiar flood story that's much more interesting, much more detailed. The story,
and like 1,000 years older, I think.
Pardon?
Well, I was just saying that I believe that story predates the biblical flood story by like 1,000 years. But anyway, so how did that pull you out? Because
of verifications. I hope you can follow. If you can't follow this, interrupt me, please.
Sure.
I believe Jesus because I believe the prophets. The prophets, their validity is on Moses. Moses' validity is on his claim of having a personal relationship with God, even seeing him. Now, the stories that are accredited in Moses, those stories are from Babylon and Sumer and Acadia or Akkad. I can't get that word right. But you know what I mean.
From so yeah, Sumer, it sounds like you did.
Babylon, second Babylon.
I was gonna say, it sounds like it clicked through some aspects of doing actual research and understanding that. But what exactly got you how did you decipher the connection? Is that part of it? Because I mean, you had an experience at which you thought was supernatural, and then at one point you conclude it wasn't. So was it purely just the kind of looking and validating like historical aspects and things like that don't line up with the Bible? That got you there? Because my question would be, you still had the experience, and I'd be wanting to know what you decided or came to the conclusion what that spirit experience was.
I believe that Gaither terminated the call.
Oh, did he?
So yeah, if he can get back on the line, wants to give us a call back, I would certainly be interested to hear sort of where that was leading to. But JMike, I'm curious about your reaction to it, because while we didn't quite hear maybe what that last straw or what that magic key actually looked like, it seemed like it was a lot of different experiences around, I guess just phenomenology, like his own like personal reaction or experience to things.
Sure. Yeah, I kind of had a sense of hopefully I pronounce it right. Pareidolia, right? I think is the term for it, which would be essentially we're pattern seeking, and so you can see patterns in almost anything. You see this in clouds is like the prime example you're gonna probably go to, and so yeah, it does seem that, because what are you basing it off of when you see Jesus? Well, it's your mental state, right? It's your phenomenological state at which you've kind of deciphered off of what you think the Jesus, or in this case, looks like, and then you have that to determine the whether or not it's Satan. So I guess my main thing is, what do you relegate the actual experience to? Because and clearly you had an experience, and so I'd be most interested in one, how you determine that wasn't the case, like you said, for viewers that could connect to it, and then two, like what you think it actually even was, or if anything.
Yeah, Gaither, I think we have you back on the line. You hearing us?
Yes, I'll have to rewatch this to hear what was said, but
Yeah, well, no worries. We really were
Yeah.
just kind of curious about what that final step was for you. The thing that sort of changed one experience that made it feel like there was a God, or that you were perhaps being attacked by Satan, to suddenly letting that veil drop. You made it sound like there was kind of like one particular moment or experience, and I would love to be able to, if not replicate that, then at least share it.
It was, and I'm going to speak metaphorically here as much as I can to draw the picture of it. When I heard the story of Enki, Utnapishtim, the flood, and as I'm hearing it, my skin is tingling. I'm thinking, this isn't true. A real God does not lie and take someone else's story from 1,500 years ago, and other people's stories from way before that, to tell his own story.
A real God should at least be able to write his own fan fiction.
You're right. Yeah, I've heard that before. That's a non-verbose way of saying it. And it was, as I'm listening to it, I'm elated, and moments pass, and I'm like, we don't choose what we believe. I don't choose. I'm convinced. The belief, clarity came in. It was overwhelming. Things come into my mind like fast, like Neo being plugged in, and in 10 minutes he's going to know judo. That's what it was like. It's all of a sudden reality. All the things that I was suspicious of, all the things I thought, all of that just lined up. This is not real. This is no different than any other religion in the Mesopotamian line of 4,000, 5,000 years of people groups and religions. And I was free. And the first thing I checked, and here's where a little bit of fear come in. What am I now? Am I moral? Do I still want to love people? And these thoughts are happening obviously in my mind, and they're going, in seconds. 1, 2, 3, they're happening fast. Sure. Who am I? Do I still have morality? And one of the things I did was I imagined rape, murder, beating a child, and I imagined this stuff, and I was like, I'm not different. Nothing changed. I'm free. And I was really free. And I told everybody. I told, damn getting fired. I told my boss, damn the family turning against me. I told them, this isn't real. And the reason it hit me was because the reason I believed at that time was evidence. If you can't give me evidence of Jesus and the prophets and Moses and the history, if the evidence isn't there, then I'm doubting. But when you present evidence that is against it, oh, now we're beyond not believing. Now I know that God of Israel is not true. It's not real. And my panic attacks went from approximately 100, maybe 150 a year to 1 a year for the past 5 years. My panic attacks.
Congratulations on that. I mean, this feels like a really meaningful revelation. And the last thing that I want to do as like a stranger on the internet is come and tell you about your experience. But I may be able to shine a little bit of light on what you were going through. Like I talked about earlier, it's really expensive to give up your belief in God. Like there's a lot that goes with that. And so even as you may have noticed over time some things that made you question, some things that planted seeds of doubt, we are trained to ignore that doubt and to push it away and to avoid it as much as we possibly can. And especially where trauma is involved, the traumatic experience of believing that you were going to hell or that Satan is after you, these childhood fears that are really deeply seated and are just integral to everyday life because they're just everywhere. Every single thought is supposed to be taken captive. And so these things can get really, really deeply rooted. And it sounds like you had an opportunity to all of a sudden walk away from those things. And it wasn't like it was like just a magical thing that suddenly happened. Rather, when we use that expression, the straw that broke the camel's back, we're talking about one straw, but also we're talking about a giant pile of straw or like a whole bunch of weight that the camel was already carrying. So I can imagine you having that moment of sort of radical acceptance where you had been carrying around these thoughts and these ideas for a really long time. And then when they finally are allowed to be sort of viewed in a conscious way and actually accepted by your mind, it can be a pretty dramatic experience. It can be pretty overwhelming. And the fact that it gave you this sort of new lease on life is really beautiful and not overwhelmingly shocking to me. So congrats on all of that.
Yeah, it was. That's exactly what it was. It was all those little things. Quickly, when I was 14, I thought I heard the voice of God tell me, "You will have nothing until you come to me." And it was nice, pleasant, just like a father, plain, no over the top, just you'll have nothing till you come. And it was loud enough to rattle your toenails. I asked other people, like family and neighbors, "Hey, did y'all hear anything yesterday, around lunchtime, something loud?" No, not really. Nobody heard it but me, but it was shaking my skin. Things like that. And another one.
So how do you explain? And that's where I'm curious. How do you explain those events now? It was just all in your head. Like, what do you think is the best explanation for that?
Well, I don't have the understanding to explain it. I would have to put that to Shannon Q. She can fully
understand. Yeah. But so you would say it's just a product of your mind, right? And kind of those beliefs reinforcing some state in your mind that's going to have some bias or that makes sense. And I ask, I'm curious because my past experience isn't like that at all. The only thing I was really convinced of at any time in that realm was more in the spiritual realm, whatever that even means, right? More like the new age type of stuff. And so I've had it to a degree, but never to that degree. I haven't had the fear of hell or any of those types of things. So it's always curious to me from your phenomenological state, or just how you think of what, how you decipher that. Because I'm someone that I stopped believing in the things that I believed in because I never actually had an experience. I just realized I'm just believing in things that I want to believe. And so I've never had those types of experiences. And so it's curious to me. I like talking to people when they have those, because I always want to assume it's in the brain, but I always leave open the possibility. I could never shut that off. But since I'm not you, it's interesting to kind of hear what you thought. And I'm glad that you kind of recognize, hey, I don't know, but I do know it doesn't line up to the beliefs that I was holding being reflective of the reality at which I live in. And so that's a huge step to take. Not a lot of people can do that.
In a few words, here's again, I would love to hear Shannon talk about this, but for me, the appearance of the fake Jesus and the real Satan, so to speak, in my bedroom, I had just woke up. Something woke me up, and I'm just rubbing my eyes, and I look, and it's something that was produced in my own mind, brain, not mind. Mind is a concept, brain is a thing. It was chemicals in my brain. It was fear from this hell of religion that I just got in. So of course I had a vision of Jesus, and of course I tried to communicate with him. And when he or it didn't respond correctly, of course I thought it was Satan tricking me. So of course I went through my entire life thinking that Satan appeared to me in my bedroom, and I won. I made the right decision. I made a deal. Hey, if it's you, tell me, I'll come to you. And withdrew the hands, turned into smoke, went away, and freaked me out. And there was another one. I'll say this, not the whole story. I'll just bullet point it. There was we were talking about we were in a prayer group one morning before church, and one of the guys, home group leader, really liked me, and he knew I was very weak. And
well, hit the button.
May have lost him again. I'll just say, as we're kind of trying to get to the root of some of these experiences, that it's worth remembering that nothing that we see or experience is like capital T truth. You know, like I wear glasses and they're always like at least a little bit dirty, no matter how hard I try to keep them clean. But that's always like a little bit of a filter between me and the world. But then, you know, the information that comes into my eyes is being corrected by these lenses so I can see a little bit better, but it's still not like perfect 20/20 vision. And then it's being interpreted by all of these nerves throughout my body, which are going to be impacted by my mood, by my sense of safety, by my resources, and all of these things. And then all of that is getting filtered in through my personality and sort of my beliefs and all of these things. So everything we take in is a little bit suspect. But these experiences, like the ones that Gaither is describing, can be really, really powerful. And especially when there is trauma involved, our kind of connection to reality, maybe the cleanliness of our glasses, so to speak, can get a little murky. That's not to say that these things don't feel real and that they don't actually have like some real meaning and value. We just have to remember that that meaning is meaning that we're giving to it rather than something that is empirical or outside of ourselves. Does that all track?
Yeah, no, I 100%. Yeah, 100% agree. And I feel like it kind of hits on what he was saying about starting from that position. I mean, when you have that experience, you're going to kind of retrofit, you know, what you've already started with as the explanation, which is the problem. If I just start with this top-down approach that, I mean, if it's God or whatever I believe in, I mean, then that's what you're going to try to fit the answer in, as opposed to the bottom-up approach. And I really, I don't want to, like, you know, have to like look like I'm patting myself on the back or something, but I think I was lucky enough to have more of that bottom-down approach on things after I came out of my spot to go, okay, well, I can believe claim, you know, I was really into believing anything at that point that just made sense, you know, just intuitively, which isn't really enough. And so from a bottom approach where I go, well, how does my epistemology even start? Like, how do I decipher things, or what do we use? You know, what's the method? Once I really started thinking about those things, it helped it click for me. And I feel like that's something that's like not taught to people. Like, you have to kind of discover it, or have someone point it out to you. And like you said, that has to then be filtered out through, you know, your own biases again, and all those types of stuff. So it's kind of like this endless circle of filtering it through yourself, where you're going to deny it or retrofit the answer you've already put there at the beginning. And so,
yeah, and that doesn't mean that like our eyes don't work or that they don't matter. You know, it just means that we have to see, you know, capital T truth as a aspiration rather than a destination. Like, we're never truly achieving it, and we're only deluding ourselves when we say that we are. And so it's there's value, I think, in recognizing that we all have some spots on our lenses and that we can work to clean them. But to just act as if all the information we're taking in is somehow like pure data and perfect and,
sure,
you know, intellectually verifiable, I feel like is really missing the reality of what it means to be a human being in a lot of ways.
Sure. And to the best way that we know how to get to knowledge. I mean, just making models, science, these types of things, where we could list hundreds of different models of different things, right? Or especially in like physics, like cosmological models, we could cite a lot of different ones that are adding infinities and negative infinities, one that contradicts those types of ideas, right? We could do these things, but that's the brilliant part about the method, right? Is that it's tentative and that it's subject to discovery. Like, that's what's so beautiful to me about it, is that like you have the aspect of discovery always. There's, no matter what you believe in, you always have that falsification right behind it to go, hey, something falsifies this claim, right? Something shows that this claim isn't true, and I can generate predictions to show that it is true, and I kind of have those juxtaposed, right? Then you can find a discovery you can feel confident about, and it wouldn't mean anything for your knowledge to grow. We don't start with it all, and that'll get back into another probably a rant of mine with philosophy. It's kind of starting like thinking that you should be able to navigate through these things already. I think that's a bullshit approach, because I think, like, to be honest about it is to say, no, I'm trying to look into my meta ethics, or what you would call your, you know, your moral system, right? I'm trying to look into my epistemology, or how I gain knowledge. I'm trying to understand the ontology of things, or what the nature of things are, right? Like, none of that is just de facto kind of given to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it only is that case when you start with some belief. And in the case of the last caller, you know, how hard is that for you to shed that when it's just baked in there already? You know, it's really hard to shed that.